stuff.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Monday morning. When you first heard the term Cold War, gosh, I guess we were still kids when we first heard that term.
Yeah.
You asked, what does that actually mean? What is a Cold War? Well, nobody's actually fighting. And I remember thinking, well, that sounds like a good war if nobody's actually fighting. I don't know. Was it just last week or something that there was a story that Russia had hacked the White House computers? Remember that story, right?
Yes.
It's kind of scary stuff, isn't it? It's not the Cold War of yesterday. It's a different kind of a Cold War. William Craig Reed is on the phone. He served as a U.S. Navy diver and submariner. Is that how you pronounce that word, Robin? Submariner?
I'm not sure.
He earned commendations for completing secret missions during the Cold War, several in concert with Navy SEAL teams. The only author invited by the U.S. Navy to observe recent ICEX operations in the Arctic. He serves on the board of directors of the Us for Warriors Veterans Support Foundation, and he's a New York Times bestselling author. His book is called Cold War III, How the U.S. Navy Can Defeat Putin and Halt Climate Change. William Reed, what an honor to have you on the show with us. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Great to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome. And where are you calling from?
I'm actually in North County, San Diego.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you for getting up early to be with us. So when in what you did with the Navy during the Cold War, your life was at much at risk as if it was a normal war. What do you call a normal war? Just war? But it sounds like your life was at risk either way, right?
Well, we did call it a Cold War, but many of us who were involved in that Cold War felt that it was quite hot. We did have a number of incidents during that long conflict, and several of us who were on some of these missions were depth charged and torpedoed and, came within a breath of not coming home.
Wow.
So for us, it was as hot as any war, even though we called it cold.
Wow. And so when we hear about today's Cold War of hacking and things like that, obviously it's an element of whatever Cold War is that nobody would have even imagined back in the 60s and 70s.
Well, exactly. And for, again, many of us, we never saw the Cold War as having ended. It only actually became cold. It wasn't quite as hot, but we've always had that tension with Russia and with China, of course, and so we're just seeing a reemergence of that now with Putin in power.
Okay, but the nations that we had actual wars with, Germany and Japan, for example, and Vietnam, did we ever have a Cold War with those nations?
Well, certainly we've had periods where we had a cold going into warming period, and then it turns hot. When we actually wind up shooting at each other. And again, with Russia and others, during the Cold War, we were shooting at each other. There were times when we did that. And if you look at the proxies, for example, if we are in Ukraine and they are providing soldiers and military weapons to one side of the fence and we are on the other side of the fence, not a lot different than having our own boots on the ground, because we're essentially at war at that point.
So when we go to war, there are theories that it's always about the money. It's always about what makes the money, which in today's world it's oil. And even with the Vietnam War, which I never thought of as an oil-rich country, but apparently there's a lot of factual evidence that says we went there for oil.
Yes, absolutely. And, I think with the Iran agreement pending right now, the news has been telling the American public that it's all about the nukes. And I think you hit the nail on the head right now. It's more about the bucks than about the nukes. 61% of Americans, according to several polls, say they favor the deal with Iran, but yet 68% in other polls say they don't believe Tehran is going to hold their end of the bargain. I think people are conflicted. They just don't understand it's about the dollars and less about the nukes.
And do you think that's why this current administration was so against Netanyahu coming over here to speak before he was trying to strike a deal over there?
Yes, absolutely. What's going to happen is you have a terrorist sponsoring country. Okay, no one can deny that, not the Obama administration. No one can deny the fact that they are behind, in many cases, what's going on with Hamas, Houthi, what's going on in Yemen, what's happening in Syria, and so forth. They are surrounding the Middle East. Israel is very worried and upset about this, and even more importantly, most importantly, Saudi Arabia is terrified of what's going on. That is going to cause serious economic problems in the U.S. because once the gloves are taken off and we're putting tens of billions, maybe hundreds of billions back into the pockets of a nation that is backing terrorism, that's the bucks we have to worry about.
Yeah.
Even if they get a nuke, they're taking over the Middle East.
Right. And so do we, well, I think, this is my opinion, then just come back at me because you would know more about this than me, but if we drill for oil here, and it sounds like we're doing pretty good with some of this, what do you call it, fracking up in North Dakota, for example, that we would become independent. We wouldn't need the Middle East oil. Would that change things for us? And I guess just to throw it into the mix, Israeli has their own oil fields, don't they? I mean, Israel has their own oil fields, don't they?
They do. They were dry for quite some time, and over the past decade, they have discovered oil and natural gas, but they did not have an infrastructure to pull it out of the ground, if you will. So guess who came waltzing in to say, hey, let us help you do that?
Russia?
Of course. Russia steps in to say, we can help you with that, and they've locked up some huge economic deals with Israel. That's a concern because the more we anger Israel, the more they will work with Putin, and again, not a good thing for us to allow Putin to put more money into his pockets for obvious reasons with what's going on in Ukraine.
Wow.
Did this start way back when they introduced the euro and tried to make everything a worldwide currency?
Well, yes, and you know, what's even more important is you speak of a worldwide currency. The worldwide currency right now is actually the petro-dollar, and that's what most Americans don't understand.
That's what I want to hear about.
Yes, that's been propping up the U.S. economy for 42 years, ever since Nixon took us off the gold standard in 1973. We're now in 2015. So that's what's holding up the U.S. economy because we're so far in debt. And if that petrodollar rug gets pulled, guess who's backing the petrodollar that allows it not to get pulled? Saudi Arabia. And that's why we are very concerned about this. And if Putin waltzes in and says, hey, you know, U.S. is angering you for all these things going on with Iran and Syria, on and on, let's just pull the petrodollar rug and make it a petro-ruble. All currencies will crumble at that point. The euro dollar, the U.S. dollar, will really have some serious economic problems in the entire world.
It would that sounds like it would make sense. So when we say petrodollar, how do we define that? That's money that's backed by petroleum?
That's correct. So if you recall, we had a gold standard. That was before 73. Everything was backed by gold, what was in Fort Knox. That went away. Now everything is backed by petrodollars. And that basically just means that all energy trades are done with the U.S. dollar. That was the deal we made with Saudi Arabia. We said we won't export oil. We won't sell oil to other countries. You will invest those dollars you make using U.S. currencies, which they've done, and we will then together make sure that all trades are done using U.S. dollars.
All right. So is this a giant chess game, and Putin is more skilled at it, or are we more it's not that we're less skilled, but are we trying to be more benevolent, and our benevolence is actually hurting us?
I think the more skilled part is probably more accurate. Putin is a consummate chess player. He is extremely brilliant. He has taken that country from very low ruble currency capabilities up to, even now, with the depression going on with the ruble, they've got $500 billion in reserves, and it's because he's been brilliant in that department. The recent concern is that they just locked up a $400 billion deal with China. Putin did this. That'll begin in 2018. Guess what? It's not done with U.S. dollars. It's done with rubles.
Wow.
First time in 42 years.
All right, I have some questions about our own leadership that I want you to answer. Plus with the sentence in your promotional material that says how the Navy, our U.S. Navy, can defeat Putin and halt climate change as well. Mm-hmm. Another interesting element to this. So let's take a little break, and we'll be right back. This is WOCA.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. For today, times of clouds and sun with a shower or thunderstorm mainly during the afternoon and evening hours, the high 82 to 86. Partly cloudy overnight, low 66 to 70. Times of clouds and sun tomorrow with a shower or thunderstorm, high 84 to 88. Wednesday, mostly cloudy and warm with a shower or thunderstorm likely in the afternoon, high 84 to 88. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
My name is Erica Olstein. I'm a doctor of acupuncture and oriental medicine at A Better You Healthcare's Pokin' for the People Community Acupuncture. Join us every Monday at 4 p.m. for a relaxing and therapeutic community acupuncture session with like-minded, health-conscious individuals from our community. Pricing is only $35. Group sessions involve yoga breathing and acupuncture for the benefit of stress, anxiety, and depression. Unwind and start your week off right. If stress is leaving you a mess, you need a checkup from the neck up. When you're feeling blue, come to A Better You. A Better You Healthcare, just behind the Paddock Mall on 27th Avenue. For further details, visit abetteryouhealthcare.com or call 615-5566. Again, that number is 615-5566.
Do you have areas that have started sagging or drooping? Is what you're looking at not quite the same as it was years ago? Are there enhancements you've been putting off? Is there serious damage you need fixed? Then call on us, Damage Control Services. When your roof is sagging and the drywall is drooping after a storm, or your home just needs some enhancements, from damage repairs to new construction, Damage Control Services is here to help.
All right, William Craig Reed is on the phone. He has a book called Cold War III, How the U.S. Navy Can Defeat Putin and Halt Climate Change. So I want to make sure we are fair to the book, but I have a real quick question for you, William. With Hillary Clinton just, made the announcement everybody knew she was going to make of wanting to be the next president. When we've had financial guys like Ross Perot who threw his hat in the ring and then we kind of chewed him up and spit him out, I often thought, gosh, that would have been the guy who could have fixed our money problems. Do you think that's what we need, is somebody who understands money, or do we need somebody who understands war? What do we need in office at the White House?
Both. So I think it's important that the American public understand that we are at war. I know that's a difficult thing for a lot of people to swallow. We'd like to be at peace, put our heads on the ground, and ignore the fact that we are at war. Mostly, we are in an economic war, and I just mentioned the petro-dollar earlier with Putin. That's the war we're in. They're going to pull. That's what he wants to do. His goal is to turn the world over to the petro-ruble from the petrodollar that will kill us economically. We'll be back into the Great Depression times too. We need someone who is a strong, smart leader to step in and go head-to-head with the likes of the Putin, and not pull out the Middle East in terms of standing strong and allowing terrorist countries, someone who understands economics, but also who understands that we are at war, and the most important thing is jobs.
Okay, William, real quickly, something happened to your microphone or whatever you're using in the break. I don't know if it got shifted or I can hear you, but it's like noisy or something.
How about that?
That seems better. Yeah. So how does the Navy, I don't understand how you say the Navy, would it be the entire U.S. military or just the Navy?
Well, here's what's interesting is that what we have discovered is that the best way for us to win this war that we are in economically is with innovation. I know we've heard that technology actually kills jobs. Just the opposite is true. The Internet over the past 30 years has created $100 trillion in additional gross domestic product for the U.S. $100 trillion, okay? That's a huge amount. Innovation is our key. Whether you believe in climate change or not, unimportant. What's important is how do we deal with the situation, whether you want to lower our climate issues or not. Cutting off your nose to spite your face by parking every car, truck, and plane and not using any oil, not the way to go. We'll kill our economy. How do we fix this? Well, the U.S. Navy, Naval Research Labs, has invented a technology. It's actually working. I saw it in Washington, D.C., that can convert salt water into any kind of fuel, liquid natural gas, jet fuel, diesel fuel, and ordinary automobile fuel.
Wow.
It works today.
Wow.
Oh, by the way, it actually pulls carbon out of the water, so it lowers our carbon footprint. And again, if you don't believe in climate change, you still don't want to stick your nose into the exhaust pipe of an 18-wheel diesel
Right.
truck.
See, that's what I always say. But you know what I've often said too, is that if we took the debate about climate change out of the equation and just simply said, oil is a finite resource, and oil is used for more than energy. Oil is used for pharmaceuticals. Oil is used for plastics. Oil is used for so many things.
Clothing.
So if we could find something as an energy source, then it would leave that oil for all those other things that we take for granted.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I agree. And I think the key here is that there's upstream, middle stream, downstream. That's the way the oil industry works. The upstream is what has all the environmentalists upset. The fracking, it's pulling dinosaur juice out of the ground. It's putting more carbon into the atmosphere than we take out. Well, what if we could replace the upstream with something like this, I call it a petroconverter, that pulls the carbon out of the ocean and actually lowers our carbon footprint, but yet makes everything else, middle stream and downstream, plug-and-play compatible. So we can continue to drive our Hummers if we want. We can do everything that we do today. The oil industry doesn't change. Our economy doesn't change. And we are lowering our carbon footprint and actually lowering the cost of exploration. So we wind up with potentially trillions of dollars added to our economy and possibly even hundreds of thousands of jobs. What a way to go.
Would it be a shared technology, or in other words, would every country be able to use this so that we would all be off of the need for oil, and would that somehow cool down the Cold War?
Mm-hmm.
Well, imagine if we owned the patents, and again, this is patented technology. The Navy has patented this technology. We own the patents. The U.S. does.
Yeah, but would they honor patents? Would like an enemy country even care about patents? They would just steal the technology.
It's cheaper for us to license the technology to them. It's cheaper for them to just license the technology from us if we're so far ahead, because it's taken a decade for us to get to where we are with this technology. Even if they tried to steal it, it would take them years and years to get to where we are. So we simply make the licensing price attractive enough so that it's cheaper for them to just license the technology from us and build these things off of their shores. We continue to move our technology forward, so we're always ahead, right? That's just how we innovate. That's how we've always done it. That's how we would get ahead.
Interesting.
And that's really scary when you said there was a $400 billion deal between Russia and China, because doesn't China hold a lot of notes from the United States that we owe them?
Exactly. So imagine if we were to pull the rug from Putin and waltz over there and say to China, hey, we have these petroconverters, we'll build them off your coast, and for much less dollars, we will create liquid natural gas that doesn't need to go through any pipelines. You can have it anywhere. So the cost of transport is far less. The cost of production is less. So $300 billion instead of $400 billion is what it costs you. You save $100 billion, we make $300 billion, and that lowers our debt to China, and we also pull the rug on Putin.
What is the after effect of whatever happens to the salt water? What's put back into the sea?
So again, all we're doing is pulling hydrocarbons out of the ocean. The ocean is made of hydrogen, of course, and there's carbon already in the ocean. There's 140 times more carbon in the ocean than there is in the atmosphere. That's why we would do it that way. So we pull the hydrogen and the carbon out, and then it goes across a catalyst, if you will, a metal catalyst, that turns it back into a hydrocarbon, which is what fuel is. That's what
is that fuel. Is that fuel potent enough for jet airplanes, or is it mostly just for cars? Would it be potent enough for some of the heavy duty things like rocket ships and things like that?
Absolutely, any kind of fuel.
Really?
So the Navy's invented this primarily to allow ships to be able to create their own fuel. Even a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, most of the things that run on that ship, including all the airplanes and the tractors and everything you can imagine, is all run on some kind of fuel, jet fuel, diesel fuel, and they don't want to have the supply problem. If someone sinks your oil ship, you are a boat anchor, basically, that can't fly jets. So that's why the Navy wants it. Never thought beyond that, because that's not their mission. I saw this and said, hey, why couldn't we turn this into something the world could use? And their chief scientist said, of course you could. Now, that's not our mission, but yes, this technology could be used for that.
Wow.
And your book is written as a work of nonfiction, even though it does read like a novel.
That's correct. And I think that's the key is how do we innovate, right? We are a nation of consumers. Telling the nation to stop consuming is not going to work. I'm sitting here in San Diego where next month we're going to probably be back to 105 degrees and 75-mile-an-hour winds and twisters of fire going up in the air. My home almost went up in smoke last year at this time.
Yeah. But you know what?
Happens. We have to innovate our way out of it.
But I don't blame the average person for this. Whenever you hear about technology that could take us off of oil, there's always some resistance from somebody other than the average. I mean, the average person would easily go to the pump and put whatever he needed to put into his car.
Yeah.
He doesn't really care how it came from or where it's made, as long as he can drive from point A to point B. Mm-hmm. I think the oil companies have been resistant because there's a fear they're going to lose money.
Agreed.
Exactly, and I think that's why we've heard all these stories about let's kill the patents for the 150 mile an hour or 150 gallons per mile carburetors and so on. This is something the oil industry can embrace because it will actually lower the cost of their upstream exploration. It will get all the environmentalists off their back. It will actually take fracking off the table. Yes, there will be some oil field folks who will lose their jobs. That's the way innovation goes. But think of how many more people will gain jobs because studies have been done. Almost 100% of the GDP of the U.S. over the past 5 years has mostly come from the oil patch. Sorry, that's just the way it is.
All right. Well, you've intrigued us enough to make us want to know more. Obviously, the short radio interview won't answer all the questions, and there are so many more questions. Mm-hmm. So we have to get the book. That'll help us out, at least a good starting point. The book is called Cold War III. William Craig Reed is the author. And William, do you want to give us some information so we can get the book?
Absolutely. It can be purchased anywhere where you can find books, online or anywhere else. It'll be out actually June 4th, but it is ready for pre-order now. All you have to do is type in Cold War 3, the number 3, or III. Cold War 3, how the U.S. Navy can defeat Putin and halt climate change, and again out on June 4th.
I wonder if Putin's going to read it.
Yeah.
he just wanted
He
to.
will.
If he plays chess, he will. Right? It's a great move to know what's going on, especially when your name's on the title.
Yeah.
William, fascinating topic. I don't even know that I began to understand this, but it's enough of an intrigue to make me want to know more. And hopefully those who really make a difference will find out more. William, thank you for being on the show with us today.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, we will take a break. We'll be right back.